Hey everybody, how are you? Good morning. Well, I know I haven't been updating you all how things are going for the last couple of days, or more like a day and a half. A lot has happened, or a lot is happening, shall we say. It's never easy when there's somebody that's passed on in the family, so everybody's just sort of trying to figure out what's going on. I'm trying very hard not to sort of cause enough stress for me to sort of have a knock-on effect on my body. Stress does cause a lot, but at the end of the day we can't help it. I can't help it. I stress a lot very quickly, and yes, I've always been looking around, having little bits and pieces reminding me of God rest his soul, my husband's stepdad. It's got to the stage that even sort of seeing people that remind me of him, I will just start crying. But yeah, I also had to go to the hospital yesterday to have a CT sort of contrast on the sort of lower back and the pelvis and the abdomen, just to check how everything's moving into my system. That turned out to be a bit of a disaster, and I was there a lot longer than I expected. And they've also asked me to go back in today. I think there's some abnormalities in there, which I don't know, but I've also got to do other tests, along with them asking me to come back in. They tried, because this type of contrast that they inject into the vein, and me being cold and the Raynaud's, my blood doesn't circulate very well, and fasting for even if it's 4 hours. I only had a toast in the morning yesterday, and just sort of long, small, sort of mug size, normal mug size of a cup of tea. Didn't really think much that I should be keeping extra warm, extra topped up with liquid and fluids. But so by the time my 3 appointment turned up, I was a bit struggling with them finding a vein, and they always try and find the small one. It kept collapsing, it kept rolling, the vein that is. It wouldn't, the blood flow was sticky, as they would call it, which means that it's so clogged up, and by the time it gets through, it just collapsed the vein every time they tried infusing the contrast in. And at one stage, the vein popped, as the doctor put it. And when I asked him, what do you mean by popped? You know, he just says, well, it just collapsed, and the contrast is a thick liquid that tries to come through into the vein. And they used a needle, which they apparently start off with something that's called a yellow needle, which is used for premature babies or something like that, just for it to stabilize. But it wasn't secured onto my hand well enough. So when it started pumping thick, the contrast, which is a thick white sort of serum almost, it couldn't handle it, and it wouldn't go in properly because the flow comes in through a small needle. Didn't know what to do, so the needle just went, and it just stuck up like that and went in, so it really ripped into it and went down. They had to do a lot of cold compression. I have a high pain sort of tolerance threshold, whichever way you want to look at it, so I actually was finding it funny. Didn't feel much pain. And I was like, and then I noticed that they're all running around, the nurses, trying to ice compress it down and sort of keep massaging it, and I was like, okay, why are there 3 of you around me? You know, stop, you know. And they were like, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? I'm like, I'm fine. You know, what's going on? Yeah, they asked me, I had to go and get an ultrasound, tried and sort of put in more needles in both arms, find a better vein. They had another specialist in, and then a phlebotomist. Phlebotomists are the ones that deal with, specialises in it. But they still used an ultrasound to find the veins and they went right in, deep in. And they were like securing it with so many tapes and so many bandages, and like, when you go into the sort of machine, don't bend your hand, don't move it, you know, we can't have it because it's metal going in, so make sure it's completely up, and I was like sitting in there going like that, and I'm like, are we done yet? Yeah, it was, I personally found it funny, but you know, at least they said somebody's finding this whole scenario enjoyable. So by the time I left to sort of go anywhere, I was feeling lethargic, and they gave me this sheet of paper to sort of, if this happens, you know, if that happens, and I'm like, what? Remind me again, what is this piece of paper for? You know, I guess, call me delusional, but it's better to look at the bright side of things than the downside, because if you start looking at how everything is bad and everything is like the worst out of everything, I think I would kill myself, and I would have probably been long gone a long time ago, than finding the funny side of things, because at the end of the day, hey, if I get so depressed, my brain would do so much more damage than my physical and the chronic pain, because I would have mentally switched off a long time ago. And maybe a part of me is that being oblivious of what happens until way later is a bliss. You know, but I look around and see people a hell of a lot worse than me. Sorry, I don't mean to be bringing hell and all that stuff into this, but there are a lot worse people out there, and they can't do anything, and they're not blessed with having sort of people around and support and the love that I get between friends and family, or the NHS and the staff. Yeah, people learn, but you know what? I'm a unique place, and a person with health conditions that you can only read about in books, and therefore, hence this website as well, for awareness, and the video, you know, and being on Facebook, sharing articles. You know, how else are people going to see what happens? I know I didn't record it, but I wasn't allowed really much inside this sort of radiology sort of section in the CT scan. So I couldn't really sort of record what was going on, and besides being in that kind of awkward position and not bending, it wasn't exactly the most, I'm not flexible. Sorry to say if anybody's out there thinking, but no. I'm stiff as can be, my bones ache, my everything, so having a mobile phone and doing that was no, just no. Well, not to mention that it would be playing with the machinery, that's another thing. But anyway, I've got to go back. I'm now ready to make the drive all the way back into Warren Street and go to UCLH and see what they need and what they want, and play it by ear. So apologies again with so many things going on. I'm not really updating that much, and this may be the only video that I do today, and just update you guys tomorrow morning. If I get a chance, I will. If not, bear with me, and I will speak to you guys very soon. Bye!